since a teenager of wanting to build communities. It was a dream of mine to, from the age of probably 18, 19, to buy land, build a community for us, for Black people in specific, to have, places where we own the homes. We have the schools. We're teaching our own children our own curriculum. Everything is Black owned. The stores, where you don't have to encounter racism and difficulties, and to help our people to build wealth and be able to transfer that wealth onto the next generation.
Hmm. Okay, so you specifically chose to use your skills to build in your community. Like you did this for Black folks. You didn't do it because it was like, maybe a great job or you wanted to work for Merrill Lynch. You did it for us. Is that
I did
correct?
it for us. Yeah, it's for us.
Okay. Well, I mean, being Black out loud is awfully dangerous.
I,
Had,
especially in this climate.
right. Who called you into that? Where did you get that pro-Black energy from? Did you have a parent that kind
My
of
mother.
your mother?
hmm My
So,
mother, very into investing in ourselves, and building for ourselves, and passing it on to the next generation. She didn't have something necessarily to pass on to me. She's still alive, but
uh,
but what she did is ingrain it into me, which was just as important as being able to pass something on.
uh, so your mother and I like this point. What's your mama's name, if I may ask?
Wanda Matthews.
Wanda Matthews. Okay, so Miss Wanda, maybe she's watching because I think she should be acknowledged. Like, without our mamas, who are we
Thank you.
without mama, right?
Right,
Yeah. So what Miss Wanda did was she didn't just make sure that you learned how to do something. She made sure you understood why you were doing it,
right,
right? It wasn't just like, okay, I'm gonna show you how to drive a car. I'm gonna tell you where to drive to,
right.
right? And I think that's really important. I think, and I'd be curious to know if anybody else understands where I'm coming from with this. I think that a lot of us, that don't grow up in conscious spaces, where there is no conversation about what the community needs, it becomes kind of a very primitive economic discussion, like go to school, make good grades, so that hopefully someone will hire you and give you a good job.
Right.
And you say, well, why are you doing that? Well, because I want to make money. Why do you want to make money? Because I want to get a car. I want to have a nice house, right? Like, well, why do you want a nice car and a nice house? I don't know, because I want to feel like I'm successful, right? But
hmm
for a lot of people, at no point does that discussion come up and say, well, because I'm Black and I really want my community to improve because of the work I'm putting in, right? Right? Like I'm investing
Right.
in myself and also by extension investing in my community and making us all better. And I think that's really powerful. So, so let's talk about multifamily real estate. I'd be curious, is that kind of like your jam? Like, is that kind of your main thing, in terms of real estate, or like, what's your
It
specialty?
is. It is. Multifamily investing is my jam, as you put it. And let me tell you why. I also own single family homes as well that are rentals. But what I learned initially when doing it is, okay, I'm purchasing, and this is a very important for first time investors, whether you're buying your first home or you're doing it intentionally as an investment. I can buy one single family home, right? Say it's a single family home for $300,000, depending on where you live in the country. And with that, I have a mortgage of probably $2,500 a month for that, right? Including the taxes and insurance, principal and interest. But if I buy a 4 unit property, which banks now with the Fannie Mae program look at the same way, as far as the qualifications, they'll allow you to put 5% down, as you may on a typical single family home as well, put 5% down, and now I can purchase a duplex, a triplex, or quad, which is a 4 unit apartment complex. So with that, I'm becoming an investor. I can live in one, house hacking, they call it. I can live in 1 unit, rent the other three out. So in addition to now I have a place to call my own that I own, I have three other units that are bringing me income. The second unit probably will cover the mortgage, depending on how high the mortgage is. And the third and fourth unit can be extra profit in my pocket. And
Hmm.
that's how I suggest beginning your start in real estate.
Okay, so I'd be curious, when you talk about the real estate market and what's been kind of happening, um, I think sometimes, when we hear about the joy and the excitement of owning property and doing multifamily rentals, things like that. there's also, it seems like there are a lot of landmines that are out there that people are not aware of. What comes to mind in terms for you in terms of like two or three of the biggest mistakes that people make when they jump into multifamily real estate?
Not yeah, not doing your due diligence, right? So that's the first thing. The first law of real estate is always location, location, location. So they say buy the worst house in the best neighborhood, and that pretty much rings true. Because it'll hold its value and it'll appreciate a lot faster than some place that's not as nice, right? So that's one thing. But a mistake is not doing your due diligence, and I'll specifically speak to tax sales in this scenario. So there are purchases, there's properties that you could purchase at tax sale, also called sheriff sale, right? So you can do your due diligence by doing title work on that, making sure that the title is clear on the property, as well as you may not with tax sales, you can't always go into the property like you can a normal property to see what it looks like, but you can definitely drive up to the property more times so than not they're vacant. So take a look in the windows, take a look at the roof, take a look at the structure, the foundation, or there how many cracks do you see? Is there water down around the foundation of the building? Or are there gaps in the roof or shingles coming off? So I think just doing your due diligence to know what you're getting into, because when you purchase a property like a tax sale property, you're going to very likely have to put some money into it. And I'll give an example of one that I did. I purchased a few properties at tax sale, and it's a great entry, right? So not all areas are like my area in Pennsylvania, where property prices are still somewhat reasonable. But at our tax sale properties, our auctions, you can buy a property for between 12 and $15,000. I've done that. In the same month, I bought one that was $12,000 and one that was $14,000. The one that was $12,000, I put maybe $10,000 into it in renovations. Didn't take too much. And immediately afterwards, when I say immediately, it took about 2 months for me to turn it over. It was more so like carpet and paint. But I rented it out, I think beginning at $13.95 when I started, and that was 5 years ago. When I started with the sheriff, so that was like 5 years ago. So I rented out for like $13.95. I made all my money back in the first year, and then every other year it's just icing on top of the cake. And since then, I've refinanced it twice, pulling equity out of it to make other purchases. It's the name of the game. But your question was about risks. It's just doing your due diligence, doing your homework, know what you're getting into, having money aside for things that may not go right, because that's gonna happen.
Mm.
Um, yeah, things that like a roof, or a tenant complained that the heat's not working and it's the dead of winter. You better have that couple $1,000s to buy a new boiler or a new furnace if necessary. So just being prepared, doing your due diligence, being prepared, and having some funding set aside for things that may go wrong.
Okay. Well, everybody who just came in, I'm speaking with Dawn Matthews Howes, and she's an expert in multifamily real estate. She's going to be our guest tomorrow night. If you want to talk to her and ask her questions and spend a big night with her, I'm going to let her take over the real estate club tomorrow night. If you want to do a free trial, you can go to drboycerealestate.com. That's drboycerealestate.com, and Miss Matthew House will be there. And also, we've had some other guests that have come through, and so the goal is to make sure you're exposed to all the different ways to make money. Also, I want to let everybody know, remind everyone, don't forget Miami. We are going to meet together. How many of you, give me a yes. I'm curious. How many of you want to come to Miami? How many of you want to meet up in person and in 3D and meet with others in the group? Give me a yes in the chat if you do. Those who are not sure, say yes or no, say no, that kind of thing. I want to see who wants to come. I want to see what the demand. I got the sense that you guys really wanted to do something in Miami. Okay, so we've set it up. So here's what's going to happen. I want to make it clear at the Millionaire Trading Camp, I am not inviting people outside of this space. I'm just not. I don't want, it's almost like you have to be qualified to be there. I want people that understand the mission. I want people that understand what we're doing in terms of Black wealth. You can bring your family members because you know them, and I need you to be accountable. Make sure you manage your cousins and stuff, because I want to do stuff for serious people that want to get better, that want to be around other serious people. And the only reason I say that is because, I'll tell you, Don, I feel like when you're talking about being pro-black and really doing wealth-related things for the black community, it's crazy how I don't feel like as popular as it should be, right? I
Yeah.
think two things are missing, right? The desire and then the skill. Right?
Hmm.
I liked how you started the conversation and you said, in the price crystal, I'll send you the link and you can take a look. There's regular access and VIP. You guys will get the link later today. Make sure you're on the text list. Text the word morning to the number 87948. So if you text morning to 87948, you'll get the link, but it's for you. I'm not marketing this outside of this space. Okay. So one thing that like at the beginning, you were talking about, I want to build for my community. And I think that's a beautiful thing. I think about that all the time. And I sit back and like, for example, when I watched Kendrick Lamar and their great performance at the Super Bowl, I said, man,
Awesome.
yeah, I was like, this is the blackest Super Bowl ever. Everything was black except for the owner's box, right?
Right.
You
Right.
know, yeah, and I said we are the biggest investors in the NFL on earth. Like
Hmm.
team owners don't get CTE, when they to be a part of the football team. Team owners don't have little boys in their community that literally dedicate their whole entire lives to contributing to the NFL, right? So we're the biggest investors out there, but we're not the biggest beneficiaries. And I
Right.
remember just thinking, like, you have everything you need. Why can't you start a sports league? And it's almost just like the mindset's not there. Like if you're not trained on being a builder or have a skill, like I like the fact that you said you studied organizational leadership. That to me should be those should be the kinds of skills that all of our children should get, right? Like don't
Hmm.
just get a great job, like run an organization, create a job for other people, but there's
Right.
a mindset that comes with that. Can you talk about that part? I know I said a lot and you can talk about anything you want, but I was thinking I want to try to narrow it in because my ADHD kicks in and then I start going crazy. But but this idea of organizational leadership, how critical has that been for you as a CEO? And I mean, I can tell you're a boss. Look at her. Don't she look professional? Look at that. Look at her background. I mean, you came up in here just looking like somebody that runs something, right? Tell me about how your organizational leadership training affects how you go about doing your thing.
It's very imperative. And being the CEO of your own organization, as well as I have a nonprofit as well, being taught how to effectively run an organization as well as to manage other people, how to speak and be heard, and to ensure that you're able to convey your message to the intended audience and that they're able to receive it. Those are some of the main facets I learned in organizational leadership, and it's important in every aspect of our life, especially anything in the workplace, whether you're a business owner or an employee or manager.
Okay. Well, I think like one thing that we have in the Black Business School, I don't know how familiar you are with what we do, but one thing that we do is we have a model called the Sturdy model for kids. And I
Mhm.
say kids should be trained in systems, technology, entrepreneurship, relationships, and delegation, right? And I thought about that because I was thinking about when you talk about building sturdy children, and it's spelled sturdy with an E instead of a U.
Okay.
It's like if you have a kid that understands systems, then not only are they better prepared to confront things like systematic racism, but also they're able to create systems, right? Like
Hmm.
one way to overcome a system is to leave the system and create another system, right?
Exactly.
And then same thing with technology. I think technology has become the king, the queen, and everything in between in this society, AI and all that stuff. Our kids have to be fully prepared on that. And then also when you get to entrepreneurship, that's basic, right? And learn how to start a
Hmm.
business, right? It's just as easy to fill out the form for an LLC as it is to fill out a job application.
Absolutely. Probably easier.
Yes, yes, because you don't have to fill out like 80 of them. And
Right.
and go to a bunch of interviews and get disappointed and the labor market's so deceptive. Excuse me. I got a little bit of a chest cold. Forgive me for that. And then you talk about relationships, right? Just like I talk about relationships, hoping that people will understand what I'm saying in that it's hard to do business if you can't form healthy relationships with other people and maintain those relationships, which
Right.
circles back to things like trauma. And we grow up with all this trauma and we don't trust anybody, you don't trust. So it's hard to kind of give people that slack in the relationship so that you can actually build together. Thinking like, for example, with your husband, you're building an institution together, and that requires you to invest in your relationship. And then the delegation
Right.
piece comes down to just like, you can't do it all by yourself. Right. And you think about how many entrepreneurs are like, I'm going to be a one person corporation. And it's like, now, I mean, you're going to have a hard time doing that.
Yeah, that's a long road ahead to do it alone.
Yeah. So did you have any thoughts on what I just said? I won't even frame it as a question. You're smart. I'm sure you got something to say on that.
Yeah, absolutely. Relationships and networking is everything. My husband and I just got back from Ghana on Monday. So we're still a little bit off because they're 5 hours ahead of us. And the relationships that we made over there, we were only there a little over a week, but the relationships we made over there, um, this was just amazing. We got tours of new real estate developments that are being built, particularly from by African Americans who are wanting to invest in the diaspora.
Nice.
I'm not going to say the name of another organization that's over there building 400 homes. They were, pardon me, they were donated 400 acres of land. These African Americans, and they're building, I think, about between 300 and 400 homes on their villas and townhomes, and they're making great progress. But just to be able to go over there and speak to the leadership there and be able to get tours of the properties there between the United States and the diaspora. It's all within relationship building, to be able to have that kind of access to see that. And in here on the ground in the US, that's why we feel it's so important to give back, by through our nonprofits. And we have training seminars where we're teaching not just children, but also adults. Hey, how do you get your first investment property in real estate? Or even your first home if you're not even looking to be an investor, because that's the pathway to building wealth and coming out of poverty. It's essential.
Wow. I really love that. And by the way, everybody, this is Don Matthews House, and we're talking about multifamily real estate and other stuff. So one thing I wanted to ask you quickly,
Mhm.
in terms of multifamily real estate, you mentioned some of the things that people mistakes people make, the biggest mistake, not doing your due diligence, things like that. I was thinking about also things like I don't know if they call it tenant risk or something, but just that risk, like when you have someone inside a property and they just are like, well, I'll pay when I
Yeah.
can pay. I'll give you
Mhm.
money when I can give you money, and you're still paying the mortgage, and they're living in your property, and you're trying to get them out. Do
Yeah.
you sort of think carefully about like what cities you want to own property in based on how the tenants' rights are structured in those cities?
I have not dealt with that as far as tenant rights, and I live in Pennsylvania. So what my suggestion for that is screen hard.
Mm.
Screen early, screen hard. And sometimes that leaves some people outside of that window. But if you have multiple eviction after eviction after eviction, like there's some people they'll say, please, can you rent this property to me? It's perfect for me and my family. But then you'll run their background and you'll run their tenant history, and you'll see that they've been evicted 3 times in this year. That means that's a system that they have going on. They don't pay their rent month after month after month. They wait till they get evicted, and they do the same thing to the next landlord. So it's important to screen and screen hard. It's important to, if you're going to be an investor, to ensure that you're collecting enough of a security deposit. Or sometimes if you're taking additional risk on somebody who may have had some kind of rental history issues, maybe even a security deposit and a half or a double security deposit. And it's not something that we like to do because we know that that's a challenge. Um, Oftentimes to come up with that kind of money, and you want to give someone a second chance, but at the same time you have to protect your investment. I have had situations where someone has moved out and they left a mess. I only collected 1 month of a security deposit, and the damage they and their children put in their home was probably 3 times the security deposit. So that leaves the investor, you have to reinvest in there to get that turned over to get rented back out.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, it seems like with, I mean, I personally believe, tell me what you think about this. I think
Mhm.
that anybody who wants to dive into multifamily property for the first time should probably take the time to maybe find somebody that has experience that you can pay them to kind of go through the deal with you,
Yeah.
and you can, pay for their experience, right? You're paying a small amount of money to that person to avoid this many
The
mistakes.
pitfalls, right.
Yeah, yeah. Once done, I did a one-on-one consultation with a student who, um, he said, he said I saved up $750,000 of my life savings, and he went to one of those seminars where they got him all pumped up and hyped up, and and then at the end they're like, yeah, just give us $30,000 to, you can join our program and stuff like that, and they got him in this real estate deal And of course, when it's like, well, how much is it going to cost me to get involved? They're like, well, how much you got? Right? It's like
Right,
that, right?
right. It depends on how much you have. Right. That's crazy.
Right, right. So this poor guy put $750,000 into this deal, and
Mm,
he's like, I can't get my money out. I'm not making any money. What should I do? And I was like, I said, I think the thing you might have to do is build a time machine so we can go back 2 years and you can talk to me before you do this. Be-
right.
Because just putting your life savings into anything is just not good investing in general. And also, I find that with a lot of deals, especially in real estate and other places, it's very easy to get your money in. It's hard to get your money out.
Hmm.
Much easier like that. It's easy to get that check to clear going in one direction, but when you're,
Right.
"Hey, where's my money?" And they're like, well, you might have some money 5 years from now. That kind of sucks. That's terrible. And so it almost seems like people like yourself can help to avoid some of these problems that might be out there. Can you kind of speak to that in terms of things that you've
Yeah.
seen?
Yeah, absolutely. I think what you're really saying is like it's important to have a mentor, whether it's a paid mentor or somebody family or friend who's gone before you and has invested themselves and have run into these issues and knows the possible outcomes. It's important to have mentors. There's multiple things I'm involved in, and for each one, I have a mentor or two. So I absolutely agree with that. If not, like the person that you spoke to, you will find yourself um,
Mm.
encountering some pitfalls. And oftentimes they're costly pitfalls. And if you to avoid that, speak to somebody who's been down that path. Another thing I would say on that note for the person you were speaking of, diversification. So I think real estate is the cornerstone. I think it's the cornerstone of wealth. I think it's probably the most important facet of building and retaining generational wealth. But diversification is also important. I wouldn't put all my eggs in one basket, meaning I would not put all my money in real estate, stocks, bonds, um, technology, another business, have your risk spread out. Don't have it all in one thing because 2008 can happen. 2008, remember when the mortgage and foreclosure crisis happened and Black America lost. I couldn't tell you how much wealth they lost all in that at that one time between 2008 and 2010. It was shameful, and they had to go to the process of rebuilding. So diversification, very important, I think, as well as having a mentor, having somebody who's gone through that and dealt with those experiences, go before you and give you some advice and kind of handhold,
Mm,
because no mentor is going to tell you, hey, invest everything you have into this one deal, because if it falls apart,
mm.
you're at a loss, a complete loss.
Yes. Yeah, well, when it comes to investing in anything, I encourage everybody to remember that beautiful song by Oleta Adams. And tell me if y'all know this song. Everything must change. Do you know that song, Don?
You have to keep singing so I can tell.
It's nothing stays
Stays
the
the same. Yeah, yeah. I do remember. Mm-hmm.
same. Everyone will change. Nothing stays the same. And the reason I say that is because with investing, awareness, financial consciousness, that's what this class is for. Like that's what I literally call it, is like just understanding like how this stuff works, seeing your environment, knowing what space you're in, knowing what the opportunities are and the risks are. Um, One thing that it seems like people forget is that things change all the time. One minute, one sector is on fire and it's the place everybody should feels like they should be investing. The next year, that whole sector is garbage, and everybody's moving their money over here. Right? One minute, real estate is amazing and interest rates are low, and everybody's leveraging. The next minute, something happens and the Fed hikes up interest rates, and you're dealing with a whole different set of economic dynamics. And I would
Absolutely.
encourage everyone to just understand that. Not only is everything going to change, but that actually provides opportunity for you. When I can tell you, Don, when I invest, I'm not really looking to invest in the hottest areas. I'm looking to invest in the areas that I think could be hot in the future. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I like to sort of pick out those spaces that nobody's paying attention to, and then I'm piling up my capital there. Like for example, right now I'm doing that with cannabis. I believe at some point they're going to legalize cannabis, and right now the cannabis stocks are just not doing that great. But I just
Okay.
keep adding to the pile, accumulating, so that when one day everyone's like, "Oh my God, weed is legal now," and the stocks double,
Mm-hmm.
I'll be like, I'm already there, right? And that's one thing about investing I think people forget is that The worst thing to do as an investor is to follow the crowd. Also, not diversifying, not doing your due diligence. And I really think, and I like to, I want you to get the last word for sure. I think patience, humility, discipline, I think goes a long way, right? So that would
It
mean
does.
maybe if I'm not sure about multifamily real estate, maybe I find some way to, maybe I'm spending all my time learning all the different ways
Hmm.
I can get involved. Like a lot of people don't even realize, like I know in our community, there's a big push toward multifamily and everyone's excited about it, which they should be. But if maybe being a landlord is not your thing, it ain't my thing.
Okay.
I don't like all that. That's but you can buy real estate investment trust and still get some exposure to real
That's
estate,
true.
right? I'll let you get the last word. So tomorrow night when you are doing your training in the real estate club, tell us what we should expect and what that's going to be like for us.
Okay, so tomorrow evening when we discuss it, we will be talking about obviously making your first purchase for your investment property or your first time home, whichever you choose to do, how to do that, why to do that, um, how to analyze a deal properly, and how to scale and grow your portfolio. That's what we're looking to discuss tomorrow.
Okay, I love that, and I appreciate you coming in. And it's funny you talked about just getting back from Ghana just last night. Literally just last night, we had a group meeting because we're doing a group trip to Ghana in July. And
Oh, wow.
you know,
Okay.
and it's we're gonna do the investment stuff and look around and all that. Um, and by the way, anybody who wants to go to Ghana, if you want to get information, just text the word travel to the number 87948 and I'll send you information. So text travel to 87948. I'll have Chanel send out the recording from last night. Jay Cameron is going to be our tour guide, and it's a lot of fun. And I really think that our people, I think we can really benefit from really connecting with the diaspora. I think we forget just how awesome Africa is.
It is. It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's absolutely it was life changing. That was my first time. My husband's been there many times. That was my first time setting foot on the continent, and I was enamored. I was amazed. It's so beautiful. There's so many lies that have been told to us about Africa, about the continent, Africa, and all its countries. It's beautiful. There are beautiful people. There's so much opportunity that exists over there, and I'd venture to say there's more opportunity that exists there than that exists here. And I'd love to contribute to building the bridge between um, the Black diasporans here and abroad over to the motherland.
Yeah, I mean, with Africa, it's what amazed the heck out of me, Don, about Africa in general. And when I say how awesome it is, I think about how mighty it is in terms of just population alone.
Mm,
People, part of financial consciousness is understanding what wealth looks like. Human beings are a form of wealth.
right,
When when you have that family and you raise your kids to be smart and productive people, you've added to your family's wealth. I hope everyone
right,
understands, right? Like I've worked with my kids and my kids have made me millions of dollars by working with me. And I've created opportunities for them. And I hope people will kind of understand this. So Africa just has not just a massive population, but a very youthful population. In fact, let me just give you some quick little stats about Africa. And what blew my mind, Don, was I was like, this is so crazy that all those years we're in public school where they're teaching us how wonderful white people are. We're not, we don't even realize how many massive African countries there are that have
right,
hundreds of millions of people, right? Like Nigeria has 228 million, Ethiopia has 126 million, Egypt has 110 million, the Congo has 102 million, Tanzania 70 million, South Africa 60 million, Kenya 55 million, Uganda 48 million, Algeria 47 million, Sudan 41 million, Morocco 36 million, Angola 35 million, Ghana 34 million, Mozambique 33, Madagascar 30, Cameroon 28. And there are so many countries that a lot of our people can't even name. They don't even know about these
right.
countries. And these countries have tens of millions of people. I almost feel like we got like kind of miseducated. Like we kind of,
We did, we did. We were speaking to some of the Ghanaians over there as well because they were miseducated on their side as well, thinking that whites and Europeans are a large part of the population. They're 11% of the whole worldwide population.
mm,
And though they dominated, they're only 11%. The other what, 89% are people of color, and a
Mm,
large part of that African or of African descent.
wow.
But I'm happy that we're turning a corner. Or when I say I'm speaking of the people on the continent of Africa and their leaders turning a corner to leading in a different way without so much European influence and taking control of their own countries again, and not allowing their resources to be stolen and pilfered out, and benefiting from their resources again, including last week I heard Senegal now is doing their own oil refining, and
Mm.
Burkina Faso is not allowing its minerals to be exported without them getting the benefit of it. I'm just glad to see we're turning a corner.
Yeah, yeah, I was really heartbroken when I went to Nigeria. Um, because I got invited over there by a rich guy. They, we got the special treatment, and I was just blown away by how much poverty there was. And
Yeah.
I was like, you all have as much oil as Saudi Arabia. How come there's so much poverty here? Because I'm not gonna see all this poverty in Saudi Arabia, and I remember also being a little bit disheartened because it was almost like maybe it was just the people that I happened to be with, but it was almost like they'd become desensitized to it. They were like,
Really?
"Oh,
Okay.
yeah, the attitude for the folks that I was traveling with, and maybe again, this is a specific individual. You can't generalize, but it was almost like when I was like, look at all this poverty. Like what's going on? It was almost like they looked at me and they're like, why do you care? Like we're rich, you know? And the guy's bragging to me. He's like, yeah, I took my children go to school in London, and we spent $30,000 on our vacation, and
Mhm.
and I was like, is that what you do? Like you brag about how much money you like? That's it was just very weird that you can have so much poverty in a nation that's so wealthy, and that's just a clear injustice. And
It is.
it's one of those things that over time, hopefully that'll get corrected, and let's hope for the best. So without further ado, I want to say thank you so much, Miss Don Matthews House. I appreciate you joining us for today. It was a pleasure to have you in class.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be on. I look forward to further conversations tomorrow evening.
Yes. So if you'd like to talk, if you're interested in multifamily real estate and you'd like to be in a private space to speak with Miss House, where she can answer questions, and any questions you have, and also break down her presentation, her training, how to analyze deals, things like that, feel free to do a free trial in drboycerealestate.com. The first 30 days are 100% free. So feel free to go to drboycerealestate.com. I'll send you guys the link. Also, another link you guys will get via text is a link to join the event in Miami. And again, it's for you. It's not for everybody. And so if you want to come to Miami and meet everyone in 3D, I'll send out the link later on today, and let me know what that experience is like for you. So make sure you're on the text list. Text the word morning to the number 87948. You can text morning to 87948, and I'll send it out to you. All right. So have a good day, everybody. God bless you. And thank you again, Miss Matthews House. I look
Thank
forward to
you.
tomorrow night. All right. All right, everybody.